This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning and welcome into you. I'm Rebecca Smith.
And I'm Bill Bryant. Kentucky mornings start right here, and we're glad you're with us on Tuesday, March 1st.
Now at 6 a.m., a Lexington home was damaged by gunfire. We're live on this crime alert.
Also, another presidential candidate will be in Kentucky today ahead of the state's Republican caucus.
Cleanup on a major rock slide near southern Kentucky may not take quite as long as was previously thought.
And we have a slight risk of severe weather that we're going to be looking at later on this afternoon. I'll break down that timing, show you when it comes in your backyard coming up.
And let's get right to the news on your Tuesday.
New on WKYT this morning, we're tracking a crime alert after a Lexington home was hit by gunfire.
It happened about 3:30 this morning on Newcastle Street in the Cardinal Valley neighborhood. WKYT's Mark Barber has been talking with police about the frightening situation. He's joining us live from the scene with an update. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Bill, and police tell me that this was a very close call for the 3 people who were sleeping inside this home when it was shot 5 to 6 times. Now, investigators tell me that an adult and 2 juveniles were all sleeping in the back bedrooms of the home, so they were not hurt when those shots rang through those front windows and crashed into those front areas of the home. We're talking about the living room, the dining room, those areas of the house. We're told that a neighbor called 911 to report the gunfire around 3:30 this morning. Officers don't know why the house was targeted, so they're going to follow up with the people who were inside later this morning. So far, police tell me that they do not know who is responsible for this scare. They say they will step up their patrols in this Cardinal Valley neighborhood as they search for the shooter this morning. That's the latest here in Lexington. I'm Mark Barber, WKYT.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. And voters in several states head to the polls on this Super Tuesday to decide who should be their party's presidential nominee. Democrat Hillary Clinton is expected to rack up more delegates than Bernie Sanders today. That could make her virtually unstoppable for the Democratic nomination. The latest polls show Republicans Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz trailing Donald Trump in most of the states. The GOP frontrunner is making a stop in Kentucky later today. WKYT's Mike Meyer is our live desk with details on the Commonwealth's increasing role in this presidential year. Good.
Coming into what could be a decisive Super Tuesday for the GOP, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump will spend a part of the day in Kentucky. Trump is scheduled to hold a rally at the Kentucky International Convention Center in Louisville this afternoon. Trump isn't the only Republican presidential candidate in Kentucky this week. Retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson made a stop in Lexington yesterday, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio will also be coming to Lexington Friday morning. As for Texas Senator Ted Cruz, his campaign says he plans to visit the state but has not announced when or where. This all comes just days before Kentucky's first Republican primary caucus in decades. On Saturday, the polls will open at 10 in the morning and will close at 4 p.m. At the live desk, Mike Beyer, WKYT.
Well, radioactive waste that was illegally dumped at an Estill County landfill continues to cause unease in the community. Concerned citizens tonight can ask questions during a public forum. A judge executive says preliminary results of air and water tests near the landfill show everything is normal. Still, many people want to know how this was allowed to happen and why it took so long to discover. Tonight's forum is at 6 o'clock at Estill County High School. A Franklin County mother says someone is using social media to bully several students, including her 12-year-old daughter. Sandy Eastman says the Instagram accounts use derogatory words and sexual language so obscene they can't be shared on television. She's reported the bullying to Elkhorn Middle School's resource officer. The school says that cyberbullying carries a very serious punishment, both at school and in court. But because the bullying is coming from anonymous accounts, there's little that can be done.
One little girl put on Facebook that they're starting to get to her, and to me, that's a sign. They're using words it's hard to digest.
Well, the Franklin County School District says cyberbullying carries a very serious punishment both at school and in court. Eastman says if she learns who is behind the bullying, she plans to press charges.
The time this morning is 6:04 on WKYT. It looks like that big rock slide that has part of I-75 shut down could be cleaned up a little sooner than first thought. Officer Don shot this video from Sky First of the rock slide. It's just south of the Kentucky-Tennessee border, what many know as Jellicoe Mountain. A 20-mile stretch of the interstate has been closed since Friday. Semis headed south now have to exit I-75 and go down 25E through Corbin. The Tennessee Department of Transportation now says the southbound lanes should reopen within about 2 weeks. It will take about 3 weeks to reopen the northbound lanes, but work to stabilize the hill and repair the interstate fully could continue until mid-April. On WKYT.com, we have a reality check that looks at where landslides are most common here in the Bluegrass State.
A Rowan County road is back open this morning after a crash involving a semi hauling logs. State police say the truck ran off Cranston Road near Moorhead. The logs ended up being tossed back onto the road. Police say the driver was airlifted to UK Hospital. We do not know his condition.
You know, you walk outside this morning, it still feels a little bit like winter instead of spring, but I promise you this, we get into your afternoon, it will feel like spring. So winter this morning, spring this afternoon, and even some thunderstorms that'll push us in March like a lion. 42 degrees there in Lexington. It's cool outside, but not all that cold. You get into Laurel County, London Corbett area, 34 degrees. Go off into Williamsburg, holding on to the low 30s as well. High Rogers Parkway, Mountain Parkway, have not heard of any issues, and things are sitting there in the 30s and 40s. Go up north into, say, Mount Olivet, back toward Flemingsburg. Now we're seeing temperatures right around that 35-degree reading. Defender Radar Network, nothing going on. It's pretty calm and quiet this morning. Kids going to school, you going off to work, you'll be just fine. Heading back home, that's going to be the interesting time frame. So watch this. We get into, say, now through noontime, and it's relatively quiet. Get back toward the west, across I-65 and also BG Parkway, right around noon to about 2 p.m. That's when these storms move on in. Then we get off into the afternoon. We're talking mid-60s. It'll feel great, but that's out ahead of some storms. Anywhere here in Lexington, I would say anywhere from 2 p.m. to about 4 p.m. That goes for the I-75 corridor and also 127 and also 27 from north to south. Then we head off into the evening from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's over in the east. That means by 8 p.m., I mean, when a lot of us maybe having a late dinner, getting ready for bed, getting the kids ready for bed, well, just some showers laying around. So much of this, virtually all of this, will fall during the afternoon hours. And then once we get into the night, we go from 50 degrees to 32 in just 3 hours. Each hour dropping 6 degrees. I mean, it's going to be a big drop. And you'll feel it later on tonight with a few flakes overnight into tomorrow. No, your kids are not going to be at home. They will be at school tomorrow, as we're not expecting any accumulation out of this. Severe timing. Here's the timing, the breakdown, a better look at it. 10 a.m. rather, to 1 p.m. across 65 corridor. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see the screen in full. There's 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. anywhere from, say, northern Kentucky, Covington, I-75, and also 68, 62 back toward, say, Mason County, Bracken County, Mount Olivet, there in Robertson County. Slide southbound and southwest into the Bluegrass region, which does include Lexington. 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and that does include 127 and 27 corridor, also the Cumberland Parkway. Then we get off toward the Mountain Parkway, Hal Rogers, also 64 streaming toward Moorhead to Ashlandville. It's 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So this is the timing on this, but remember, this is a low-end severe weather threat, no outbreak type of situation. Nonetheless, there's still a threat, and that's why we have that first alert severe weather day for you today.
Well, the good point is that there can be severe elements embedded in any storm that comes through.
Absolutely.
So you got to watch for that. All right, Micah, thank you so much. It's 6:08, and every morning right here, we love to, right after Micah's weather, bring you traffic. And here is Officer Don with a look at what is happening out there on the roads. Good morning, Don.
Good morning. Overall view of Lexington traffic flow this morning. Of course, traffic's fairly light, so nothing significant happening on the south side. We do have an issue outbound Versailles Road and Moose Circle. One lane is blocked there. Police are investigating an incident, and they have one lane blocked, one through lane of Versailles Road near the circle. That will have an impact if they're unable to clear it in the next few, but we do at least have one lane open to pass by. Now, as far as our drive times are concerned, that particular situation not really affecting the ride from Lexington to Versailles so much just yet, from Versailles to Lexington, that is, but it is something to keep in mind. And as far as the other drive times are concerned, 75 across the Clays Ferry Bridge looks about normal, and coming in from Clark County on 64, things are moving well. Now back to you in the studio.
Okay, Don, thank you so much. And so a lot going on out there to, keep in mind this morning on your first day of March. Here we are, believe it or not, huh? 6:09 on WKYT this morning.
So Erin Andrews will take the stand again today after her emotional testimony against a Tennessee hotel stalker.
Kentucky mornings start here. You're watching WKYT This Morning.
Welcome back in at 6:13 on your Tuesday.
March 1st, you
Yeah,
know?
it's hard to
Here we
believe
are.
it's already March.
The month that spring begins. Let's keep that in
I
mind.
like that. I like that way of thinking. Well, it is Super Tuesday as well, and more delegates up for grabs today than any other day in the presidential nominating contest.
The latest polls are showing that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are leading in key states, and Weijia Jiang has the latest from the campaign trail.
On the eve of Super Tuesday, Donald Trump predicted a victory during a rally in Georgia.
We're going to win with our military. We're going to win, 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 win.
Latest polls show the Republican presidential frontrunner leading both nationally and in several key states. Marco Rubio has tried to halt the billionaire's momentum, hammering him for days, most recently for failing to immediately disavow former KKK leader David Duke, who announced his support for Trump.
There is no room in the conservative movement for the KKK or David Duke or anyone who will not condemn them.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz is banking on a win in his home state to keep his campaign alive.
So what we will see, I believe, is Donald Trump and me coming out both with a significant chunk of delegates and everyone else far behind.
In the Democratic race, political analysts expect Hillary Clinton to pick up far more delegates than Bernie Sanders today, which could make it nearly impossible for her to lose the nomination.
America is and always has been great. What we need to do together is make America whole again.
Sanders made his final pitch in Massachusetts, where more than 100 delegates are on the line.
I think we're going to win here in Massachusetts tomorrow.
The Vermont senator says he intends to take his campaign all the way to the Democratic convention. Weijia Jiang, CBS News, Washington.
And by the way, the biggest prize of the day is Texas, with 155 Republican delegates and 252 total Democratic delegates.
Testimony continues today in the civil lawsuit involving TV sportscaster Erin Andrews. Andrews became emotional on the stand yesterday as she recalled the moment she learned Michael Barrett had secretly videotaped her while she was naked in her hotel room. Andrews is suing Barrett as well as the National Marriott in Tennessee for $75 million over the 2008 incident.
President Obama will sit down with Senate Republican leaders at the White House today, and they'll discuss the Supreme Court seat left vacant by the late Antonin Scalia. The White House says the president intends to make a nomination, but is still reviewing recommendations from his legal team. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky argues that the decision should be left up to the next president. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly is coming back down to Earth today after nearly a year in space. He's been up at the International Space Station longer than any other U.S. astronaut. Kelly's current mission has lasted 340 days. In his last briefing before heading home, Kelly told reporters that he is feeling good. Right after he lands, he will be flown to Houston, and there he will undergo lots of physical and scientific tests. They're trying to figure out how humans do with long space travel, such as a trip to Mars. This, by the way, is his fourth mission in space.
Seems like he's doing pretty well for himself right there. Well, 6:17 is the time this morning. A federal judge in New York says the government does not have the authority to force Apple to give the FBI access to a locked iPhone of a Brooklyn drug suspect. The ruling could influence the tech giant's battle with the FBI over a similar request to break into the phone of one of the San Bernardino shooters. Today, Apple and the FBI will testify in front of Congress about encryption and privacy. For the first time, one of Google's self-driving cars caused a crash. No one was hurt. The car hit a bus near Google's headquarters in California. According to the accident report, an employee in the car did not take control because he thought the bus would stop. Well, Subway is ensuring its foot-long subs are actually a foot long. This comes after a class action lawsuit in 2013 when a teenager posted a picture of a sandwich that was only 11 inches long. As part of the settlement, the fast food chain says it will institute measures to make sure its bread will be 12 inches long. Good to know they're doing all that. Well, it's Women's History Month, so Wallet Hub compared the 50 states using different criteria that speak to the needs of women, like access to health care and high-paying jobs. Minnesota was #1, followed by Vermont and New Hampshire. I just still can't get over, Bill, that Subway sandwich actually being a foot long now. We can all rest assured.
Right. Well, leave it to a teenager, you know, to assure some accountability on that, right? All right, our time this morning is 6:18 on WKYT this morning. Rise and shine. It's time to go here on your Tuesday morning. And coming up, can you believe that 4 pounds can be considered obese? Well, just ahead, you'll meet a hedgehog that is really trying to slim down.
It's all relative, right? Defender Radar Network, there is the look outside. We're going to be tracking these strong, potentially severe thunderstorms later on this afternoon, coming up in just a few minutes.
Good morning. Welcome back in. WKYT this morning on the air. The time is 6:22 here on Tuesday, March 1st.
Yeah, we hope yours is off to an awesome start. Police looking for someone who fired several shots into a Lexington home.
Yeah, scary scene, and that's what's trending at this hour. It all happened about 3:30 this morning on Newcastle Street. That's in the Cardinal Valley neighborhood. Police say an adult and 2 children were sleeping inside when 5 to 6 shots hit their house. Nobody was hurt.
1,400 delegates up for grabs in the presidential race on this Super Tuesday. The latest polls show Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton leading in key states. Trump will make a campaign stop today in Louisville.
And now a check of the forecast. Meteorologist Micah Harris watching for potentially strong storms today.
Yeah, I want to show you this back toward the west. Really sparking up across 64. Well, you got to go off into southern Indiana, but little bits and pieces of some showers and thunderstorms. That is not your severe weather threat. We still have some time as I span out and show you the bigger picture here. The big system is back toward the west. You got to get into Missouri and Arkansas, so it's still a ways away. But this out ahead of it, this stuff out ahead of it is showers, a couple of rumbles of thunder, maybe even this sparking up down toward Tennessee and northern portions of Alabama heading our direction. That's going to help us out big time. If we can have that stuff sparking up before the storms get here, that takes it down even lower than it already is. So we're hoping for that, and it looks like that's turning out to be the case. There is a slight risk for severe weather for virtually all of us. You get off toward east and southeastern Kentucky, still that marginal risk. But what this means is it's a low-end severe weather threat. Still, nonetheless, we're expecting the possibility of damaging winds and even the possibility, what I cannot rule out, an isolated tornado or two. This is no setup to get large violent tornadoes, but still, weak tornadoes still do damage as well. You got to keep that in mind. So rolling throughout the afternoon, anywhere from noon to over back toward I-65 to 6 p.m. back toward the West Virginia and Kentucky border. I'm going to take you through that hour by hour coming up.
Okay, see you in a bit, and we thank you. It's 6:24.
And this story is one that probably doesn't surprise any of us, right? I mean, we've all been there. I know I have. You have.
For sure.
If you crave sweets, you may not be getting enough sleep.
Yeah, the body seems to want carbs for energy. Doctors at the University of Chicago say a lack of sleep intensifies cravings for sweet and salty, high-fat foods. Researchers say sleep loss extends the effects of a chemical signal that enhances the joy of eating, what they call rewarding snacks. Sleep-starved patients ate nearly twice as much as those who got 8 hours of rest. So there you go.
Yeah, you're really not like reaching for the carrot sticks after a night of no sleep. Let's just be real.
That's right. You got it. And you have to play until the end. A Rhode Island high school basketball team learned that lesson the hard way.
With a 1-point lead and just 4 seconds between them and the state title, the Burrillville Broncos intercepted an inbound pass and threw the ball into the air to seal the deal. The team spilled onto the court to celebrate. There you go. There it goes. But they overlooked a minor detail. A player on the other team caught the ball and called a timeout with 1 second left on the clock. Their opponents threw a miraculous inbound pass that led to a quick layup. Chihiro High steals the championship game.
Oh, and such agony of defeat on the other side. And
all right.
Well, all right.
You know, that'll be the talk in Providence.
Oh, yeah. And for years. You know, you remember
definitely.
that one, right? Yeah.
A hedgehog who tipped the scales is going on a diet.
It looks like he needs to. The little guy only weighs a little more than 4 pounds, but that's 3 times the average weight for wild hedgehogs. He's so fat that he can't curl up into a protective ball if predators approach. So staff at the Wildlife Rescue Center in England are now in charge of helping Jabba lose some weight before releasing him into the wild.
I'm a big Star Wars fan, really, so I saw a slight resemblance with with Jabba and the Star Wars crime boss. So I mean, personality-wise, he's far from it, but looks, he's a little resemblance.
All right, so Jabba has quit his favorite snack of mealworms and is now on a strict regime of liquid dog food. He's already lost about a pound, and he can now roll into a ball. So progress.
Oh, Jabba.
Jabba, keep at it, right?
You know, maybe Jabba just wasn't getting enough sleep. Maybe that's
well,
why
maybe
he
that's
was
it, right?
overeating, right?
Reaching for the high-fat snacks. Hey, it's good to have you with us here on WKYT this morning.
When we return, how friends are helping a Lexington firefighter in a tough battle against cancer.
Tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is $135 million. Wednesday night's Powerball jackpot, $292 million. We're coming right back on WKYT.